Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Hello and welcome to the Skeptic Zone, episode number 376 for the 3rd of January 2016. Let's hear it for 2016. Thank you. And let's hear it for all those psychic predictions that came true in 2015. Oh, come on, you're being a bit too hard. No, you're not. Yes, folks, every year we like to review, check the homework of psychics who make predictions for the year ahead. And so far, as I've mentioned before on the Skeptic Zone, going back over 10 years of their published predictions here in Australia, they're about 95% wrong. You know, somebody else might be able to interpret that 90%, 89%, in that ballpark. But let's not worry about predictions for 2016. Let's look at what's coming up this week on the Skeptic Zone. We're going to kick off the year with Jo Alabaster. Evidence, please. Jo's going to be reading an article from the Age newspaper about chiropractors with anti-vaccination books in their waiting rooms. A bit of a worry. After that, it's the welcome return of A Week in Science from the Royal Institution of Australia. Skeptic Zone and the Royal Institution of Australia have a very long and happy relationship at the moment. Yes, going on for some years. www.riaus.org.au. Good to have them back. After that, I read a report from the Australian Skeptics website about a outfit in Queensland, the state of Queensland, who are, well, they seem to be ignoring the new law about no jab, no play. New vaccination laws came into effect in Australia on the 1st of January. Then to round off the show, more of Maynard. More of Maynard at the Australian Skeptics National Convention. Maynard's going to be talking to some of the organisers there, some of the guests, Jo Alabaster included, and Heidi Robinson, our very own reporters. Now, I still can't believe I've got material from Maynard after all this time from one event. Seriously, I think there wasn't an hour in the day where he wasn't interviewing somebody. Looking forward to lots more Maynard in 2016, lots more Heidi and Jo and Iran and Dr. Raichi. They're very busy people, but they do spare time for the Skeptic Zone. But now it's time for me to run downstairs and gargle some honey and salt or something to try and fix this this voice of mine. Maybe it's just too much party over the New Year period. I don't know. While I'm doing that, I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. What we want is some more evidence, please. Here's Jo Alabaster.
Hello, this is Jo Alabaster. This is from The Age, published December 31st, 2015, by Bianca Hall. Chiropractors promoting anti-vaccination views despite rules. Chiropractors' waiting rooms across the country have become recruiting grounds for the anti-vaccination cause. The Chiropractic Board of Australia has vowed for years to take action against practitioners who advise their patients not to vaccinate their children, but on Thursday it said it, quote, has no rule in limiting practitioners' freedom of speech, end quote. In August 2013, the board said it would clamp down on practitioners who promoted anti-vaccination beliefs and ordered them to remove anti-vaccination material from waiting rooms. But according to posts in the secret Facebook group Vaccine Free Australia, uncovered by Peter Tierney, who runs the pro-vaccination blog Reasonable Hank, chiropractors around the country have been flouting these rules by promoting the 2005 book Well-Adjusted Babies to patients. The book, billed as a holistic guide to parenting, is penned by celebrity chiropractor Jennifer Barham-Floriani, who co-runs the Vitality Allied Health Group in Middle Park and is also a member of the Vaccine Free Australia group on Facebook. Her book contains a chapter on vaccinations, which links vaccines to illnesses including multiple sclerosis, cancer, leukemia, mad cow disease, autism, and allergies. Dr. Floriani observes that asbestos, thalidomide, and cigarettes were once considered safe, and asks, quote, "Are our children now the innocent guinea pigs?" End quote. Dozens of women have taken to the private Vaccine Free Australia Facebook group to praise the book, with several saying they discovered the book in their chiropractor's waiting room. Others said their chiropractor either gave them the book when they were pregnant or had recommended it to them. A Tasmanian woman wrote, quote, "Saw this in my chiro's office. Very good read. Apparently the chiros got in trouble by their association recently for having anti-vax literature in their office waiting rooms and have been advised to remove it. But this book is discreet. Love it." End quote. A Melbourne woman wrote, quote, "Love that book. Saw it in my chiro's waiting room and I then bought it." End quote. Melbourne orthopaedic surgeon John Cunningham treats many patients with spinal disorders who have previously been treated by chiropractors. Although he has a particular interest in chiropractics, it is the anti-vaccination campaigns run by some chiropractors that particularly infuriate him. Quote, "I stress that it's not all chiropractors, but there is a core group who believe that with manipulation of the spine, you don't need vaccinations. It is blatant rubbish. It is just silly." End quote. Dr. Floriani's teachings on vaccinations, he said, quote, "directly fly in the face of what the professional standards say she should be doing." End quote. A spokeswoman for the Chiropractic Board of Australia said the body required practitioners to provide, quote, "balanced, non-biased, and evidence-informed information to patients to help them make informed health decisions." End quote. The board's code of conduct stresses that, quote, "current evidence indicates that preventative measures such as vaccination are a cost and clinically effective public health procedure for certain viral and microbial diseases." The spokeswoman said, quote, "The board has no role in limiting practitioners' freedom of speech, but holds registered chiropractors to account against the professional standards it sets." End quote. The board has issued repeated reminders to chiropractors of the need to ensure their practice is evidence-based, but has not issued Dr. Floriani with any official reprimands for her anti-vaccination work. In 2013, then board chairman Dr. Philip Donato, OAM, said the vast majority of Australia's 4,600 chiropractors worked in the best interest of their patients. Quote, "However, the board takes a very strong view of any practitioner who makes unsubstantiated claims about treatment which is not supported within an evidence-based context." End quote. Fairfax contacted Dr. Floriani's spokeswoman, but Dr. Floriani was not available for comment. The spokeswoman said anyone with a concern about a registered chiropractor could contact the Australian Health Practitioner Regulation Agency on 1300 419 495. And now a note from me. I'd really like to acknowledge the tireless work of Peter Tierney, author of Reasonable Hank, who has been investigating, documenting and exposing the activities of anti-vaccination campaigners and chiropractors for several years now here in Australia. He puts in an amazing effort. He's brought the conduct of many anti-vaccine practitioners to the public's attention and is active in holding the media to account on issues of false balance. Deservingly, he was the recipient of the 2014 Australian Skeptics Skeptic of the Year Award. The Reasonable Hank blog is at reasonablehank.com.
You told me that aliens really exist. You met them and swooned with elation.
Hi,
Are you a skeptic living somewhere in Europe or simply interested in what like-minded people are up to in countries around here? I have good news for you. There is a new podcast out there with the aim of helping you connect with all those European skeptics. The ESP, European Skeptics Podcast, a bi-weekly show coming out on the 18th of November on SoundCloud, iTunes and Stitcher. Come and visit our website, theesp.eu, follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and help us keep the project genuinely international and interactive. Let us provide you with a real ESP experience.
It's driving me crazy. Guess which one of us is to see? You're driving me crazy. You're driving me crazy. I don't know how you can believe.
Welcome to A Week in Science from RiAus, bringing you the science you need to know. As big as 2015 was, 2016 is shaping up to be an awesome year in science. Here's what's getting us excited about 2016. We're always interested in things that are going to make our life just that little bit easier. That's why we can't wait to get our hands on a pair of self-tying shoes. Yep, first seen in the film Back to the Future, Power Lace shoes will be released to the public in 2016. The first pair has already been given to Michael J. Fox, aka Marty McFly, who lives with Parkinson's disease. November 2015 saw the first Australian road tests of driverless cars. On top of that, software updates to Tesla cars has pushed them even further into the realm of autonomous vehicles. Keep an eye out for more progress towards driverless cars on our roads. We might see increased testing or even the start of autonomous or semi-autonomous vehicle rollouts. Personally, I'm keen to see anything that's going to have us living like the Jetsons. So where do you go when you're looking for dark matter? Rather than heading up, a group of physicists are heading down, way down. The Stawell Underground Physics Laboratory is being constructed now and will hopefully start operation at the end of 2016. At more than 1 kilometre underground, in a gold mine, the SUPL will include a piece of equipment called SABRE, a dark matter detector searching for the mysterious particle. Other experiments include looking at neutrinos. It could take particle physics to a whole new level. And since the internet is all-pervasive, we should really include Project Loon. This groundbreaking project by Google will bring internet to the 2/3 of the world's population without connectivity. How will it work? Well, balloons with mobile data transmitters will float in the stratosphere, revolutionising the way internet is delivered, bringing global connectivity like never before. So that's what we're looking forward to in 2016. There's more information on the RiAus website, riaus.org.au. Follow us on Twitter at RiAus and like us on Facebook. I'm Tania Meyer and we'll catch you next week.
From the Australian Skeptics at www.skeptics.com.au, dated January the 1st, 2016, Queensland childcare operator says, no jab, can play. Queensland's no jab, no play pro-vaccination legislation came into effect on January the 1st, but the state's biggest childcare provider, Creche and Kindergarten, C&K, will not make use of the legislation's power to ban children who are not up to date on their vaccinations. According to a report on ABC Online, C&K CEO Michael Tizard said the organisation's 143 centres would not be excluding any children. Citing, quote, children's rights, end quote, Tizard told the ABC that, quote, it's not our intention to exclude children that are not vaccinated from early childhood education opportunities, end quote. The No Jab, No Play legislation was passed by the Queensland Government with bipartisan support last October. It gives childcare organisations the right to refuse entry to non-vaccinated children from their facilities. However, any such decision by an organisation is optional, not mandatory. Quote, "We're aware that probably the minority of families that are not vaccinating are conscientious objectors," end quote, Tizard said. Quote, "We also believe a significant number of unvaccinated children are from families where there might be issues or from disadvantaged communities, and we feel excluding the children from early childhood opportunities just further disadvantages them," end quote. C&K's stated policy is to support, quote, "inclusion for all children, and this is one of the features that makes our C&K services so unique," end quote. Tizard told the ABC that the No Jab, No Play campaign, quote, "was important because it raised awareness in the community about unvaccinated children and the importance of vaccination," end quote. Quote, "C&K is very pro-vaccination, so we're fully supportive of children being vaccinated, and we're fully supportive of public education programs that educate parents about the importance of vaccinations," end quote, he said. But Tizard said open access had always been C&K's policy, and it had strict infection control guidelines in its centres to prevent illness from spreading. Quote, "I know some parents may be concerned that there's unvaccinated children in the centre, but it's been our policy position," end quote, he told the ABC. Quote, "We discussed it with our educators, and they're very child's rights focused and see the importance of a high-quality early education program for children. For those parents who struggle to get around to it and need additional support, we're also supportive of programs that will assist them to understand the importance of vaccination and get them there and get their children vaccinated," end quote. In Queensland, only 91% of under 5-year-olds are fully immunised. And that comes from the pages of the Australian Skeptics website, www.skeptics.com.au.
Hey, this is Jay Novella from the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe podcast. Did you know that there are thousands of skeptical reports, interviews, and investigations going back to 1981, free to download? Just visit www.skeptics.com.au. Click the publications link and enjoy almost every back issue of The Skeptic, the journal from Australian Skeptics. You can also subscribe online and get the latest digital or hard copy of this, the world's second oldest skeptical magazine. That's www.skeptics.com.au or just Google Australian Skeptics.
Here's Maynard's spooky action at a distance.
And of course, one of the hosts of the whole weekend here is Chris. Hi, Chris, how are you?
Hello, I'm very well, thank you. Having a great time.
Yeah, now what's your involvement with the Brisbane Skeptics usually?
I'm just a member of the Brisbane Skeptics, so I'm just one of those people holding up the bar.
And you've been getting into costume out there. I saw you with the umbrella, the feather duster.
Yeah, we've had a broom and a feather duster and a 1950s housewife. It's all good fun.
Now, tell me, what do the Brisbane Skeptics focus on that might be different from other skeptics groups in the country?
Look, I think we're pretty similar to a lot of skeptical groups in the country. We're very, very interested in anti-vaccination lobbyists, and that's been a primary focus. In fact, a couple of years ago, we protested against Merrill Dorey being asked to speak at the Woodford Folk Festival.
How'd that go?
That went fantastically well. I actually ended up with several camera crews at my front door and we got the minister involved, and we actually stopped her from speaking solo, and we got somebody who knew something about vaccines on stage with her able to talk against us. So that was a really fantastic achievement from the Brisbane Skeptics.
You've got a huge weekend for the Brisbane Skeptics hosting it this year. What are you looking forward to as the big one on stage this weekend?
Oh, there's so many fantastic people on stage. I guess personally I'm a big fan of Joe Nicol. I just think he's the most interesting person with a huge life. Yeah. But Eugenie Scott, of course, involved in the in Kitzmiller versus Dover case, that's going to be a biggie as well.
No. And is it fun getting up in front of the stage there and mucking around a bit, you know?
Oh, no, I hate it. Absolutely. Absolutely hate being in the spotlight. No, it's great. And my host, Jake Farwarden, is fantastic and did a wonderful speech this morning.
He's got a bit of a cold, but he's under an injury cloud, but he's going well.
He is. He's injured, but he's up and he's playing, and he did a wonderful talk on scepticism and diet. And
now, what fad diet have you been sucked into over the years?
Oh, look, I've been on every fad diet. The one I remember most was the Beverly Hills diet, where I ate nothing but grapes for a week. But I've actually lost 65 kilos in the last 2 years.
You mentioned that, and is that just through steady, gradual, sensible eating?
Yeah, I lost it skeptically. So what I found was if you eat less, if you eat more than you burn, you lose weight. It's really simple maths. And
no, you burn more than you eat.
Yeah, you burn more than you eat. That's right.
Okay. So basically you either eat less or you... But it's probably what goes in that's the hard bit, isn't it? Because burning it off is you've got to get out there and do the exercise. But if you don't eat in the first place...
Yeah, well, you've got to... It takes persistence. But, there is no magic diet that is going to help. It might help short term, but really just take notice of what your doctors tell you. They're the people who know what they're talking about.
And when it comes to woo, is there one woo that you wish was actually real?
Oh, I guess, and I guess I'm going to be serious here for a moment.
No, we'll be serious, everybody. Take a deep breath at home, serious.
I used to be a spiritualist. I was brought up as a spiritualist.
Now, what does that actually mean? Sorry?
A spiritualist is somebody who believes not necessarily in God, but there is another world that runs parallel to ours, on which people go when they die. So there is another plane.
Okay.
And one of the comforting things about being a spiritualist is that I always believed that I would see my father again.
Okay.
And when I realised that I was an atheist and that I was going to have to let go of all this stuff, that was the last thing that I really had to let go of, and that was hard. But
look, I can understand that, because that is like the end of a relationship or a death. There's that severing that you can never go back to that place, and that's part of the pain.
So I do have a lot of sympathy for people who hold these beliefs, and I've always said to people, look, it's a journey. You can't just drop those beliefs in one go. Just work towards it, look at the evidence, and gradually they just fall away. But people have to do this stuff at their own pace.
Yeah, and if you try and force people, you won't win friends and you won't change anyone's mind.
That's right. I think that's what we're learning here today at the Australian Skeptics National Convention.
So you get up there and have a hoot on stage.
I will. Thank you.
We're here at the Skeptic Zone table, and we have someone who's just boldly walked up and bought a book from me there. And you've got my book that contains such contentious words as Duran Duran and Bay City Rollers.
Yes, indeed, Maynard. Guide to being a dag. Well, I have 4 children, and each one of them have suggested that I'm already well on the way.
Well, I'm surprised that young children will still use that language. The Americanism of cool and uncool or something like that maybe would replace dag in our lexicon.
Well, they were very well-educated children, and they don't use the sort of language that other children might use to describe their father.
You still will have to explain Duran Duran to them.
Well, Duran Duran was an English band, mainly famous for Hungry Like a Wolf, of course.
Yep. Good.
As we discussed before, did this very famous video down in South America. These boys from very much London had no idea what was going on. It's the first time they'd been out of the city, I think.
Oh, well, I'm a Rio guy myself. I think that's a great clip. Simon Le Bon on the yacht.
I haven't seen your underwear yet, but I'm prepared to take your word for it, Maynard.
Now, what do you make of this skeptical convention? You've been in charge of running the one in Melbourne a couple of years back. There's been many there. How do you think it's going so far?
Well, of course, being a previous convener, I'm breathing a sigh of relief and glad that someone else has all the responsibilities. But I really love these events, and I was just talking to a few people before. We noted that the average age, we think, is maybe a little bit lower this year. It just looks...
I think so. I think the Brisbane skeptics are slightly younger, generally.
And they're happier, sort of very Brisbane sort of...
They get more sun, they're a bit healthy, they stay outside a bit more, particularly you Melbourne, like you're inside because the breezes are blowing up,
It was 34 degrees the other day, I'll have you know, Maynard.
Yeah, it was 16 degrees 2 hours before that.
Well, it was. There was a bit of a cool change as I was leaving. But I must say, you hear all of these nasty things about Queenslanders and sort of religious right and all the rest of it, but we haven't seen any of those. No protests at all.
Oddly enough, no. We've seen no one, no theists here today I can see at all.
But there's still a day and 3/4 left, so you don't really know. But, the speakers this morning, I particularly liked Peter Ellerton talking about thinking and logic and so on. He was terrific. And, of course, Susan Gerbic was great too. She was down in Melbourne. I think she's done the eastern coast of Australia recently. We serve scepticism, Maynard. We're skeptics, not cynics.
Well, Jo, we're here at the Skeptics table, the Skeptic Zone table, and I've got the children's table on the end for the Maynard stuff.
I'm sorry, there's no room for you at the grown-ups table, Maynard.
I know. You're just selling some orgone energy there. You've got an orgone energy pyramid. Now, what is that made of?
It is made of 50% resin, which is organic, and 50% metal shavings, which is inorganic.
So what is the action of it?
That is an incredibly good question.
Okay. But it's a bit overwhelmingly a positive thing.
Yes, they're meant to help increase positive energy, block negative energy, particularly, apparently they can work for Wi-Fi signals. They can't work for things not falling over on the table here, apparently.
You've got a moose rabbit.
Not a moose rabbit, it's a jackalope.
Oh, a jackalope, I'm sorry, there you go.
My daughter's printed, printed for me, and then my daughter's painted it for me, so...
That's very cool.
My mascot.
That's great. Now, we're wanting people to ask us questions here at the... Anyone ask any questions yet?
No questions yet.
Okay.
I've got a question. Why are there no questions?
Yeah. I'll put my drink down. Well, someone who's all dressed up at the dinner. We're now at the dinner for the Australian Skeptics Conference in Brisbane. Heidi, what do you make of this? This is more your climate here, the humidity here.
Oh, this is amazing, Maynard. I decided to get all frocked up tonight.
You did. You look great. It's a 50s-inspired outfit. Is it off the shoulder or is that a halter neck? What do you call that?
I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. Well, it's very nice.
I'll go with halter neck.
Yes. And Heidi, you went up and accepted an award for some people who couldn't be here tonight. A very moving award, and one. Could you explain it to the listeners, please?
The Fred Thornett Award this year at the Australian Skeptics Convention went to Kath and Greg Hughes, who tragically lost their baby in March this year to pertussis or whooping cough. He was exactly 32 days old when he lost his life, which was the same age as Dana McCaffrey. She was also 32 days old when she lost her life in 2009. Right after they lost their baby Riley, Kath and Greg Hughes went public with it, and with the intention of trying to raise awareness of the whooping cough vaccine, which is now available for women to have in their third trimester, but which Kath was never offered during her pregnancy. So they have absolutely worked tirelessly in what has to be the worst time of their lives, having lost a precious baby, and they've just done magnificent things to raise awareness of how the whooping cough vaccine is not only available but free for women in their third trimester, and they have really been strong advocates and very successful at that. So, I mean, we at the Northern Rivers Vaccination Supporters couldn't think of anyone more deserving to have this award than Kath and Greg Hughes.
They go along to baby fairs and speak to mothers that are expecting, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. In fact, this weekend they couldn't be here because they are manning a stall at the Melbourne Baby and Pregnancy Expo. It's called the Light for Riley store. So if you have a look on Facebook for Light for Riley, they've got a massive following on Facebook. And
you said they often get into arguments with people at these things. Some stand-up arguments have happened.
Well, there are certainly, they're in the minority, but there are certainly anti-vaccination people that do turn up to these events. But Kath and Greg have always conducted themselves, they're just lovely people, and they don't engage in debate. As we all know, as skeptics, there is no debate when it comes to things like climate change and vaccinations. So there's no point engaging in a debate. What we're all trying to do, and what Kath and Greg do as well, is just try to put the right information out there. If someone wants to debate them, we just walk away from that.
Every death is tragic, but what is tragic about this, and people might say, well, these numbers aren't very large, but they're preventable, and that's what we've got to remember.
That's exactly right. It's a preventable disease. And look, we all know that the whooping cough vaccine is not as effective as we would like it to be. There used to be what was called the whole cell vaccine, which was much more effective than the vaccine that we have today, the acellular vaccine for whooping cough. But the problem with the whole cell vaccine was there were more side effects. So there were more fevers associated with giving it, more redness and swelling at the injection site and so on. So they switched to the acellular one, and the payoff for the reduced side effects was that there's also a reduction in the efficacy of the vaccination itself. But it is still an effective vaccine, and it's still important for us all to get vaccinated, even as adults.
Yes, because I'm just wondering, someone like me that doesn't regularly come in contact with kids, would it be of any need at all for me?
Well, at the moment, the recommendation is for adults to get boosters every 10 years if they are in close contact with small babies and children. In places like the Northern Rivers...
Kind of hard to call that, because I can't think of any time in the next year I'll be in contact with a small baby, but you never know when someone's going to have one and drop over.
Yeah, exactly. And look, I went recently, and as you know, I live near Mullumbimby with the lowest rates of vaccination in Australia. I went to my doctor recently for a whooping cough booster, and they said, why do you want that? Do you work with babies and children? I said, well, no, I don't. But I'm trying to do this for the community to try and contribute to herd immunity, which we just don't have in the Northern Rivers. So, it's worth having a chat to your doctor anyway about it, and discussing your concerns and why you want to do it, and contribute to that herd immunity. And that's all I can say. Talk to your doctor.
and thank you for accepting the award on their behalf, and that's great. And is there a cash prize for them or anything like that as well at all?
Yes, that award does come with a cash prize, and for Greg and Kath, all the money that they raise through Light for Riley, and that will include this prize as well, goes to the Princess Margaret Foundation. That's the hospital in Perth where baby Riley died, and they are doing research currently at that hospital into a better vaccine, and looking into the scheduling of the vaccine. So it's going to a good cause.
Right. Well, you have a good time. Good night. Thank you for accepting the award on their behalf.
It's absolutely my pleasure. Thank you, Maynard.
G'day, this is Dr. Karl Kruszelnicki, proud to be a skeptic, and you can find out more about me at drkarl.com and get lots of free stuff there as well.
Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone, and those people in Sydney, why don't you come along to Skeptics in the Pub? Skeptics in the Pub, the Crown Hotel near Museum Station, downtown Sydney. It's kicking off at 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. If you arrive a bit earlier, that's all right. It's always the first Thursday of the month, come rain or hail or shine. Well, it's inside a pub, so it really doesn't matter. No scheduled speaker this week. We might persuade Maynard to say something. It's more of a relaxing opportunity to have a chat with skeptics, have a drink, have a dinner, and learn how to bend a spoon. And also for those people in Sydney, come along to the Forest Lodge Hotel, which is in Glebe, not hard to find, on the 17th of January from 7 o'clock for a Maynard event. Maynard presents Starstruck, a classic Australian musical film. As Maynard says, it's cheesy. It's camp. Anyway, tickets at the door at the Forest Lodge, only $9. Promises to be a fun Maynard evening. Find out more, just go to Facebook and check out Maynard's Movie Night. On next week's show, I'll see if I can interview Fred the Cat, who's sleeping somewhere around here. He's going to be 16 this year. Oof. But for this week, with my voice almost gone, this is Richard Saunders signing off from Sydney, Australia. You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for contacts, an archive of all episodes since 2008, and our online store. Please support the Skeptic Zone by following us on Twitter @SkepticZone, liking us on Facebook, and leaving a review on iTunes. You can also show your support by subscribing via PayPal for as little as 99 cents a week. The Skeptic Zone is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed on the Skeptic Zone are not necessarily those of Australian Skeptics Inc. or any other skeptical organisation.